So I'm doing today's daily soap, and we are looking at John 11 and 12. In these two chapters, one of my favorite stories is found, and it's the story of Mary washing Jesus' feet with her hair. And I imagine Mary had hair probably similar to mine, where it was long and a little bit coarse and thick. And the thought of using my hair to wash someone's feet is absolutely repulsive. I don't know what it would have to take for me to do that, but that is definitely on the list of things I am not interested in doing. Um, but in this story, we learn something super important about how we relate to Jesus. Mary sacrificed in her actions, she sacrificed in her possessions, and ultimately we see her heart for Jesus through that process, through the giving up of the things that she valued. Um, and what's crazy is right after she does that, she immediately receives pushback from one of the disciples about how that was a poor use of resources and how that could have done other things for the mission of God. But I think us understanding and demonstrating our heart for Jesus is one of the most important things we can do for the mission of God. So the big question I want to ask is, how are we treating Jesus? And obviously, Jesus isn't physically here for us to serve and honor, but Scripture says, whatever you've done for the least of these, you have done to me. So the easiest way to answer, how am I treating Jesus, is to answer, how am I treating others? And I have kind of a weird analogy, so just bear with me for a second. Let's imagine for a minute that we all want to be huggers. And I'm not talking like a physical hug, because social distancing, hugging from 6 feet away is hard, doesn't actually work. But if the goal is huggers, there's a spectrum between successfully hugging, and then on the other side of that is punchers. So we've got our huggers and our punchers. And the first thing we need to understand is that every single thing that we do says something about who God is. And that means the good things we do, the bad things we do, and the things that we are not doing says something about who God is. So on the hug side, we have actively serving and honoring and sacrificing, giving up our rights and our desires and our wants so that others can experience the mission of God, experience the love of God. And then we've got on the puncher side, us actively setting a poor example of who God is by attacking people with our words, striving for like meaningless success, being aggressive, demanding that our rights are more important than the mission of God and the things that we think we deserve. So we've got our punchers, we've got our huggers, and then we've got this weird middle ground of people who are just kind of floating by, not doing anything. And I think I've seen so much of this lately in the news because of all of the tragedy revolving around brutality towards Black Americans. And we are either fighting for our friends, fighting against our friends, or doing nothing, which is sometimes just as harmful. So I guess my question is, and my encouragement for you guys today is, if you want to be a hugger, you have to identify where you are punching or where you are doing nothing, both of which are equally as harmful, maybe not equally, but differently harmful, and invite Jesus into that space. But if we're not willing to look at the areas where we are actively hurting people or passively hurting people, there is no way we will get to a point where we are successfully living missionally, which is the goal, has to be the goal. If you are a Christ follower, you are living missionally. If you are not living missionally, there are serious flaws in the way you are approaching your faith. And I don't say this to be condemning or difficult, because there are areas where every single one of us is living the mission of God poorly. There is no one who is doing it perfectly. Every single one of us has, in theory, areas where we're hugging, areas where we're punching, and areas where we're doing nothing. But the goal is to eliminate, first of all, all of the areas where we are attacking the understanding of who God is. We're in the areas where we are saying something about God that isn't true, like He values our rights more than His mission, or He values selfishness or us getting what we want, we got to stop doing that. It is not. It is nowhere near as important as his mission, as us demonstrating his love and his kindness, and yes, even his justice and all of those sort of things. But if we're out there being a jerk, like, people aren't going to let us hug them. They're not going to let us show them who God is and how he feels about them and how he cares about them. So today, even just right now, close your eyes, take a minute, and ask God to identify the areas where you are actively saying something about God that isn't true, where you are punching, where you are making it hard for yourself to live missionally, and invite him into that space. Just walk in humbly and admit that you aren't perfect and that I'm not. And this is a hard thing to do. Asking God to help you grow is challenging, but it is critical to who we are as believers, and it really, really matters. So that is my prayer for you guys, to evaluate how am I treating Jesus, and how we evaluate that is by how we treat other people. And it really is a heart thing. It's not an action thing. It's not, and yes, action is a part of it, but if we can't stop and look at why we're doing something, we're never going to change what we're doing. So look at the why, be humble, and invite God into that space. That's all. Bye.